The Trilogy Podcast with Vin and Scott. 3 movies, 2 men, 1 podcast.
He's so funky.
Funky. We want the funk.
His name is Scott.
His name is Vin.
That's right, and we're both two funky fellows. And what we're doing today is we're welcoming you to the Trilogy Podcast.
Funking it up.
All right, Scott. The only podcast in the universe devoted strictly to trilogies. No reboots, no straight-to-video. Trivia, facts, debate, and more. To hell with the movie if they made 4. Scott, how
Yes.
are you on this Halloween week?
I am well, I'm feeling the spirit. I'm feeling the Halloween spirit. Spooky time,
I know
fun
that
time.
music was playing just then. You were up and dancing, and you.
Yeah, I'm a little out of breath here. I'm not gonna lie.
So yeah, what are your plans for this Halloween?
I don't really have plans. I plan to throw together a costume in 2 days, as per usual.
Right.
And then find myself drunk somewhere.
Oh, so you're just gonna walk around in costume looking for an adventure?
Oh no! Well, I'll pick a place where I'm gonna go.
So either way, the costume's the most important thing, not the plans.
Well, sure. You can't show up without a costume if you're going to a costume thing on Halloween.
We would be remiss if we didn't mention that we are doing a trilogy for this Trilogy Podcast
Yeah.
that directly relates to the holiday season.
Yeah.
And I don't
We
think-
like to be current. We
do. Have we even alluded to what that trilogy?
No, we have not.
All right, it is a thriller,
Mm,
and that movie is
The Purge.
The Purge. I think that may be our most recent trilogy, Scott, that we've done so far.
Yeah. Pretty
Especially
recent.
since there's a new one coming out next
Next year,
and we're
yeah.
trying to get this in under the wire. But
Right.
for now, this bad boy is a trilogy, and we're going to cover it this Halloween for you.
Hell yeah. The new movie coming out is a prequel.
Is it? Yeah, that's what I heard as well. Okay, so let's go through sort of our chores here. First and foremost, what kind of a trilogy is this? Trilogy Bot's going to officially tell us. All right?
Great. He's the man to ask.
He's not really a man. He's a robot.
He's the bot to ask.
He's the bot to ask.
Bot. So short for robot.
All
Short
right.
for Robotnik.
You know what? This is a Comic-Con, buddy. Okay, here's the Trilogy Bot.
These trilogies are cheap and scary, like Scott's asshole. And they are not in any way dependent upon stars, but rather dependent upon the gimmick. When that gimmick is a killer, usually producers don't stop at 3 movies. Oh, the horror.
Oh, the horror.
The horror.
What's that from? What's that originally from? The expression "oh, the horror."
I don't know.
That's not when the Zeppelin crashed and the guy was screaming, right?
That's the humanity.
Close enough. But
It's
not the
close,
same thing.
but he was more talking about like, oh my god, all the people are being killed.
Yeah, and this is. Are you looking up the "oh, the horror" reference?
I'm going to, while we're talking,
Why not?
We'll look it up.
Because
Because
that's
I
the
feel like we
name
should
of
know
this
that.
kind of a trilogy. One of our clever little names.
Origin of the horror. The horror. This phrase is found in Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness.
Oh, that's right. I feel like in reading about the making of Apocalypse Now, that came about. I know that it was based upon that book. It's a
And then they
thriller.
never
It's
stopped
a
doing
thriller or a horror. We'll go with either thing here. Horror being something that's more into the gore factor, the
Right.
classic, gross out gore type of a movie. Whereas a thriller is more about, edge of your seat, the scares, the jumps, the
Right.
fear.
Right.
And there's crossover there naturally.
And I will say, like, most horror movies, it's a gimmick,
Mhm.
and they just play it out and play it out and play it out. But at the same time, horror movies are defined by their gimmick. What's the different thing about this?
Right.
What are we dealing with? Supernatural? Is this a normal guy?
Sure.
Is he a murderer? What's the circumstance?
it's
And
worth-
that defines those series of movies.
Certainly, and it also is worth mentioning that these movies oftentimes are not trilogies. We just said it because they're so cheap to make, so not reliant upon star power, but rather
Right.
the idea, the genre, the fear factor, if you will, that goes along with it,
Right.
that they keep churning them out once the first one is successful.
Few people have become big stars from horror movies, but like very, very few.
You see a couple of celebs, a couple of big stars.
Johnny
that-
Depp is the one that comes to mind from Nightmare on Elm Street.
Kevin Bacon was in the first Friday
Tremors.
the 13th.
Oh, Friday the 13th?
Oh, yeah, he took an arrow through the neck from underneath the bed. One of the best killings of that movie.
Ah.
So.
Thank you, sir. May I have another?
All right, but The Purge. All right, The Purge.
But not so much anymore, though.
What do you mean?
With not that many people these days do horror movies and then become
Not
big
so
stars.
much. You saw in the early 2000s they did a remake of Texas Chainsaw Massacre where Matthew McConaughey was in it.
Yeah.
And a couple of other stars. It
Yeah.
was something like that, maybe. And then, and of course, we're going to get to it when we talk about some other the horror trilogies. Something like The Human Centipede, which was a popular trilogy in the last 10 years. You had, because it was such a pop culture gory piece of business, you had celebrities that wanted to be in it.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm dreading that.
I know you are. Every time I
Dreading.
mention that eventually we're going to have to get to it, you make a face and yet.
Yeah, maybe like 2 Octobers from now.
Maybe this is a little fantasy of yours instead.
No, the poop. I don't like the poop in the mouth because they gotta poop in each
Well,
other's mouths. It's not something I'm looking for.
How many of us can say they do? Okay, look. The Purge. The first one came out in 2013. The second one, Purge Anarchy, 2014, in the next year. Don't see that too often anymore. It just tells you how cheap and easy they are to make.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
And they probably greenlit it before the first one was
No
released.
question. That first movie was made extremely cheaply.
Yeah.
And it made a lot of money. And the second and third, the third one was Purge Election Year 2016.
Right.
The second and third made even more money than the first one. Really kind of exploded onto the scene, the pop cultural scene.
Yeah.
The director for The Purge is James DeMonico.
Yes. I believe he also writes all of them too.
He's mostly a writer. He's mostly a screenwriter. And before this, not famous for too much. You know what he was famous for, Scott?
What's that?
Jack. He wrote Jack.
Ah, you know what? I did find that in my research.
Francis Ford Coppola was the director.
I want to hear a manly rip. Show us what you're made of.
Oh, wait. Oh, just warming up. Just clearing my throat. I feel it down below.
There really wasn't any one actor that was in all three, except for the black guy in the first one.
They call him the Stranger.
The
in
Stranger.
the first movie.
He makes a very tiny appearance in the second one, and then he's
the
back.
one that they bring into the house and help because
They bring him to the house and help. The son brings to the house and helps.
which starts the whole thing.
Starts the whole thing. And then he's brought back in a big way in the third one. He's kind of the only linking character. Indeed, This is the kind of trilogy where the link is really the story that's created, the universe that's created.
Right.
But these are all three stories that take place in the same dystopian universe, same dystopian future. And
not that far ahead in the future.
But listen, trust me, I think there's much to be said. We're going to talk in a minute about dystopian futures.
We'll dive in.
But I think that it's also worth mentioning as far as the actors go, that whereas you had stars like Ethan Hawke and Lena Headey.
Lena Headey?
What's funny is that
Headey, I think?
I thought her name had an L in it until I did this.
That's Headley.
I thought it was Headley. I really did.
Yeah.
Who we know, of course, from Game of
Thrones. She's Queen, well, depending on who you ask, but Cersei. She plays Cersei.
Lannister. And her husband is played by Ethan Hawke.
Shame.
All right.
Yes.
They play the Sandin family in this Purge
Ethan
movie.
Hawke does a lot of these horror movies.
Ethan Hawke is
days.
such a strange actor to me.
Ethan Hawke seems like a guy who wasn't supposed to be a movie star, but he slipped through the cracks and everyone was just like, okay.
And then he's in a movie that kind of blew him up was maybe Reality Bites when I just went to college in like '93, and it kind of ushered in the Generation X. That was like one of the Gen X movies. Reality Bites singles. These were Gen X movies.
Yeah.
He's like Kevin Bacon light, if you ask me.
I don't really care for him.
There's not much weight behind him. We're going to talk about him a lot more in depth because he is the star of another trilogy, the Twilight Before Sunset, after Sunrise.
After Sunrise or something.
I have to look it up.
Yeah.
Each name, but that's a love
Beyond
story.
Sunset.
Trust me, we'll save that one to the end.
Yes.
But
with the Human Centipede.
Yeah. Okay. Those will be back to back weeks.
Yes.
And we'll realize these movies aren't too different at the end of the day.
What is this? What are you doing to us?
And he has that sort of clipped way of talking to her. He's like, yeah, well, so, kind of clipped way of, yeah,
He just seems
Talking about-
unbelievable to me every time he does something. I'm like, what? That's not what a human person would do.
But when he's describing this whole supermensch idea behind the Purge, and his kind of, yeah, that's way, but
Yeah, it's great, make a lot of money.
make life easier. It helps us. People get angry. You're like, okay, just enough already.
Yeah.
Okay, just rounding out the cast of the first one.
Yeah.
You got the son, who is the son on one of the sons is on Parenthood. I think the son is in Parenthood. That's why he's famous.
Oh, okay.
Okay, the one that has the electrical device.
Yeah.
He's kind of interesting looking.
The one who fucks everything up the whole movie.
Really kind of messes everything up for the family. And then the villain is played by a guy named Murderous Wakefield. I just wanted to say that is it Rise? R-H-Y-S? Is that how that's
Reese?
Is that Reese?
Reese, maybe? Yeah, I think.
Whatever, okay? Whatever.
Because there's that other guy. Reese.
Okay, just...
Darby? Reese? What am I saying?
Witherspoon, that's a girl.
No. There's another...
Rise Davies is the other actor you're thinking of.
But I don't think it's right. I think it's Reese Davies.
Okay, good. I'm glad that I've been saying it wrong my whole life. Okay, in the second movie, you can tell me something about this actor, this Frank
Grillo.
Yeah, because he's a superhero guy.
Yeah, he's been in the Captain America movies. He was in Winter Soldier. I don't think he's in the first one. He was in Winter. Oh no, because it was in like the 30s or whatever, 40s. He's in Civil War as well.
He was a bad guy?
He's a bad guy. He plays in the second movie. He gets basically a building dropped on him by Captain America as he's trying to escape because he's working for S.H.I.E.L.D. trying to get him. So then he kind of turns into a bad guy and becomes this character Crossbones. Okay. And in the last we saw him was the beginning of Civil War, and he kind of blew himself up. But he flew into a building and then it exploded. So a lot of people have said he's probably still alive. They'll probably bring him back, and I hope they do because I kind of like Frank Grillo.
So we're definitely going to wind up covering him when we discuss that Captain America trilogy.
That's correct.
He's the main part of it. Yeah. Okay, I didn't mind him necessarily in these movies. Okay, right. I felt like you reminded me. His demeanor was reminiscent to me of the Sin City guys. That sort of not Marv so much as the other guy from Sin City. That sort of that sort of square jawed, have to get the job done stoicism.
Was it the Bruce Willis character?
Not the Bruce Willis character. It's there was and then
Clive Owen's character.
The Clive Owen character. Yeah, maybe that mixed with the Marv character again. That kind of square jawed, silent but deadly, moving forward. Got to finish the job. Right. I didn't mind him. Yeah. All right. Other famous characters in this trilogy. Nobody else really in two that was famous. Carmen Ejogo. She played Coretta Scott King twice. Consulted Coretta Scott King on one of those occasions. Oh. I guess on the other occasion she was just like, fuck it. Yeah. And the third movie we had the famous Michael T. Williamson. Bubba Gump.
Bubba Gump.
He made an appearance.
Michael M.K. Williams? Michael Kenneth Williams?
Oh, as the resistance leader.
Yeah. Is that his name? No, I don't know if that's his name.
I didn't write it down.
But he was also Omar on The Wire.
That's right. And for whatever reason, he
then later on Boardwalk Empire as well. He was Chucky White.
Okay, so he plays that resistance leader that's anti the Purge. Yeah. And he kind of disappears.
And obviously did not want to return for the third movie.
I think they mention him in passing in the third movie, and they bring back the original guy, the stranger full blown as the head of the entire thing.
Right. And he's in the second. He's like his second in command or something in the second one.
That's right. I forgot all about that guy. Okay. And in the third movie, like I said, Michael T. Williamson, Bubba Gump comes back.
Well, not Bubba Gump, but
what?
His name's not Bubba. I said Bubba Gump, but his name's not Bubba Gump. Bubba Gump is the name of the company.
That's right.
He's
Bubba.
Benjamin Buford Blue, something like that.
Yeah, okay.
They call him Bubba.
You're right. I made a mistake, but you knew what I meant, right?
Yeah. Well, they're not married, is what I'm saying. That would have been frowned upon.
Scott, I don't know.
Back then.
Okay. Elizabeth Mitchell plays the senator. You know her from Lost. You know her from the Santa Claus movies.
She's Julia, I think, on Lost.
Yet another trilogy that we're going to have to cover is the Santa Claus movies. These trilogy actors cross over, man. They cross over in a big way. So that's really, again, these are your noteworthy cast members, and frankly, there aren't many. This is a thriller. So honestly, the cast members don't really have to be famous. I could just as well have said 10 other people, and it wouldn't have mattered. These movies would have made as much money.
Right.
but I think it's worth definitely discussing this kind of film. The old dystopian future world.
Yeah. So I think before we begin the movies, we got to get to the my little plot description.
You know, I'm rude. I was all ready to start talking about dystopian futures, and we don't even know what these movies are about.
We got to give you a quick rundown.
What are these movies about, Scott?
I'll tell you. Again, before we get into this, some spoilers ahead. Obviously, you should have watched the movies.
You know what?
I'm going to give you a real bare bones plot.
We don't give a damn if we ruin it for people.
Right. But I'll try to be as
There's no logical
vague
reason
as possible.
to listen to this podcast if you've not seen these movies.
But here we go.
Go.
We'll start with The Purge. In a future America, where all crime is legal for one night, we meet a rich white guy who makes a ton of money selling home security systems. You might even say he made a killing.
I might say that.
Oh, me. When the night comes, him and his family try to wait out at home. But after helping a man being hunted, they become the target of a group of rich white murderers. The rich white murderers break into the home, kill the rich white man, and are about to kill the rest of the family when the neighbors show up and dispatch the rich white murderers, only to try and kill the rich white family for petty grievances. The hunted man reappears.
The grievances are quite petty.
They're extremely petty.
They're
like,
just kind of-
we gave you all that money to keep our home safe, and now you're gonna build a
You're
thing.
doing really well.
Yeah, but I kept all your homes safe, and now you're what?
That's good.
The hunted man reappears and saves the rich white family. The mother decides not to kill the neighbors and waits out the remainder of the night. That was The Purge.
And morally, everything is correct.
And everything's fine now.
All
yes.
right.
It's all we're all even after that.
The good old Sandin family.
And then, of course, the second movie, The Purge, Anarchy. In the same world from the first one, an ex-military man...
that's what you went with?
I didn't feel like going into the whole
In the
description.
same world from the first one.
You remember that? Okay, good. We're going to keep going.
Go.
Great. In the same world from the first one, an ex-military man on a mission stumbles across some victims of a government man and his death squad. The military man makes a deal to protect them and get them to safety in exchange for a vehicle, because he's got somebody to kill. But when they arrive... It's a cool line, right? That's a good line. But when they arrive, it's revealed that there is no car, and it was all a ruse. They all get kidnapped by a gang that sells them to rich white people, who auction them off to be hunted. The military man kills off the rich white people with the assistance of a group against the night of killing, and they escape. The military man reveals he's off to kill a man who killed his son in a drunk driving accident. Had to ramp up the drama there, I thought.
It was ridiculous. As soon as he says that, you're like, drunk driving?
You're like, oh, come
What?
on. Well, because we can't hate him. It
You're
can't,
justified to kill him not during the purge. Okay.
He ends up sparing the man, which pays off when the man saves his life from the government man.
Convenient.
That's The Purge, Anarchy.
All right.
And here we go, finishing it off. The third movie, Purge, Election Year. In the same world as the other ones. In the same world as the other ones.
While at the same time, in our world, it is election year.
Right. Paralleling our world.
Oh, no.
In the same world as the other ones, a senator who, as a young girl, watched her family murdered, is running for president in hopes to end the night of killing. But the politicians in charge decide to have her killed on the night of killing, and the senator and her Secret Service agent, who was the military man in the second one,
Convenient.
flee, only to team up with some of the senator's supporters. They seek help from a group against the night of killing who plan on assassinating the current president. The senator is kidnapped by the government and brought to a church to be sacrificed. The Secret Service agent and the anti-night of killing group arrive and rescue her, where she convinces them not to kill the president. 2 months later, the senator wins the election and there are riots across the country, presumably creating a purge all the time scenario.
So it's always a purge, you see.
Yes. Purge. I think that's why this next one has to be a prequel, because it's like, well, that's sort of it.
How do we leave the country?
Right. Like, what is it just going to be like a war-torn Purge all the time
so,
now.
So then that's kind of where we are then. So what do you think of these kinds of movies with this predicted future, this dystopian future? And, that's the last time in this entire podcast I'll be saying the word dystopian.
I like dystopian.
But I'm not going to say it again. We've said it like 8 times already.
Okay, all right.
It's ridiculous. This sort of horrible future.
Yeah.
What do you think of this kind of a film? Because I can rattle off a couple very quickly now, since I wrote them down.
Well, I'll tell you, I usually, it depends, but I usually like them, I think. With these ones, though, it's like too soon in the future for this to have ever happened. Yeah. Like something
so
like...
It's more of a direct political commentary, or they're trying to make more of a commentary than they are trying to make a sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right. And
half-assedly, ham-handedly.
Yeah, I feel like the series changes after the first one, too.
Oh, the series actually evolves in a bad way from the first one.
Yeah.
It evolves in a bad way. But you know what? I just want to throw out a couple more of movies that sort of are like this, because I personally like movies that have rules and parameters.
Right.
These kinds of future worlds that
have
their own set of rules.
Yeah.
So a couple of movies come to mind. Hunger Games. In a big way. Running Man. And I think the Running Man is directly ripped off in the second movie in a big way. Demolition Man. And of course, The Matrix.
Love Demolition Man.
Demolition Man takes it.
I could do 6 podcasts about
completely different sort of alternate future. It's the opposite thing. Everything.
But it's far enough ahead that you're like, everything could be completely different. That's fine.
It's a perfect world instead of a horrible world.
Right.
But of course, you still have the people living underground.
Sometimes you need the horrible guy.
You still have Dennis Leary eating rats and shit underground.
Right.
So you still have that.
This is a rat burger.
Yeah. Ooh. So I like these kinds of movies in general. I don't know why we always have to have such a horrible. And the future is always presumed to be a terrible place.
Right.
In general.
Sure. Because it's supposed to comment on something we're doing now that's going to affect us in the future.
And again, since this isn't a far in the future thing, it's really a direct commentary, especially since you're going to call it the third election year. It's going to it's going to happen during an election year. It's going to feature a senator who is a white woman.
Right.
And who's basically being protected by minorities, saved by minorities, so she can speak for minorities.
Yeah. And they got the whole religious aspect on their side. Clearly Republican.
Please. All right, so you know what? So let's put a cap then on sort of the thematic elements. Do you have anything you want to say about these future movies? I just thought it was worth mentioning some of these kind of Hunger Games. Where there's a future where there's a weird thing that goes on, like an event, like the Hunger Games. We're going to put people in this scenario and they have to fight to the death.
But
the Running Man, people have to fight to the death.
Right. But if you do a good job of explaining how it got to this, I think those movies can be successful.
Want to talk about the movies?
Let's do it.
This is not a test. This is your emergency broadcast system announcing the commencement of the annual Purge sanctioned by the U.S. government.
We mentioned Ethan Hawke's stilted acting. And
he has moments in this movie. There's the moment pretty early on where the boyfriend shows up and tries to kill him, and he shoots back, and he immediately goes, "Did I hit Zoe? Did I hit Zoe?
What happened?
Oh, I didn't hit Zoe, did I?" Like
terrible.
You should be much more alarmed by this. Like, you know what I mean?
Meanwhile, did he?
And then he never finds out for like 40 minutes.
Zoe would be okay with him gunning her father down just right there in the house, and they're going to flee together?
Well, that goes to the larger point of, why is the boyfriend in this movie?
Listen.
Why does that part exist at all?
Exactly. They make the whole situation where they're saving the black guy happen at exactly the time the boyfriend is...
Right. As a distraction just so he can go hide in the house somewhere.
Doesn't make any sense
ridiculous.
At all. It's meaningless. And
yes.
Again, the expectation of the boyfriend was that the daughter would be okay with it?
Yeah.
The father... People haven't completely...
I'll kill your dad and then we can be together. Like,
yeah, it's really strange.
Yeah. I guess it's really just exists as another example of, like, this is the world that they live in, is like that people could conveniently kill that one person they want to kill.
That's an aha
because that wasn't really...
It's an aha moment for like a scary moment in the first film. Like, all of a sudden, someone who... If your eyes are open, you can tell he's a bad guy from the start of the film.
Absolutely.
All right.
He snuck into your house. I mean, he's up to no good.
The same thing happens in the second movie when the Spanish lady guns down the other Spanish one because she's sleeping.
Right.
Or is that the third movie? It's the third movie. But it's that same kind of scary, we're all safe in here together.
Yeah.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
That kind of idea. It happens again. Ooh, we're scared.
Yeah.
So yeah. Oh, you know what? I just wrote down this line. I wrote, I'd get on a boat. I'd get on a boat during this. Get on a boat.
Just get on a boat.
Just get on a boat. Why aren't?
What about snipers though?
On a boat. Go sail to the ocean. What do you mean snipers?
They could. If you're like sitting out on your boat and then
go more than a mile away. Sniper's not going to kill you from more than a mile away.
I don't know. They could be everywhere. Well, here's what I think
what
is
would the thrill
you don't have to go on a boat.
Someone in the ocean be?
Go on vacation to Europe or any other country that does not participate in a purge. That's all you have to do.
It's one day out of the year for you just to disappear.
Yeah. Just take a vacation.
They mention it in passing in one of the movies.
Go to Mexico for like a day.
In passing, don't they? In one of the movies, something about people are leaving the country. Yeah, they are. Because
maybe
in the third movie, when
everyone should, I don't understand why anyone stays.
In the third movie, when the government is just directly taking the killing into its own hands.
Yeah.
I think one of the things they mention is that too many people are leaving the country or something.
Right, because they need to cull the
population.
It's stupid.
Meanwhile, you got Ethan Hawke describing like survival of the fittest to his family in that dipshitty way that he talks, trying to sell it to his family. Meanwhile, you'd think by the time they grow up with him totally sold on the purge, that he wouldn't have to explain it to them every single year.
Yeah, because they grew up with it.
They grew up with it. It's his business.
It's been 5 years at least, I think, in the first one. That's like the 5th annual purge or something like that. No, it's ridiculous. And I don't understand what's to stop people from murdering outside of the purge. Like, what's to stop someone from just killing somebody anyway? What was this giant agreement that you're telling me the mafia, gangs, all these people, they took a pledge? They're like, we'll only kill them this one day.
No, it's still illegal during other days.
But they never talk about if they say, there's no crime. Like, no one's
there's no crime, but I still think it's still illegal. They still have police on other days of the year.
Right. But the mafia is going to stop and go, all right, we'll only kill one day a year. That's it. Like, doesn't make any sense.
Another really big flaw is that it's not just murder that is legal. It's every crime. So why isn't there just everyone would be stealing? People wouldn't be just killing people. They'd be robbing people.
Yeah.
You said the mafia before. The mafia is known for whacking people, but at the end of the day, the mafia is about stealing. Big time criminals steal.
You didn't see that many like riots of people running out with TVs and stuff, and like it's free. You can do that. Like
they didn't show it at all. It seemed that it was only killing was the thing that was people were taking advantage of. Every crime is allowed. Everyone would be committing every crime.
I guess somebody, if you're like a Best Buy or something, you got the money to, and that's the whole point. I guess is if you have the money to protect your store because you can put up. Big steel walls and all that shit.
I guess you could, but why isn't everyone breaking into people's homes? Again, people would be stealing. It wouldn't be a matter of
right. Like, why do you got to murder? Like, I can understand coming in like, all right, I'm gonna hold you all at gunpoint and just give me all your money, and then I'm gonna leave, and you don't have to die. You can close it up after I leave, and that's it.
Exactly.
Well, that's the one thing is, I can understand. Like that, it's just like heightened reality. That it's absolute fucking ridiculousness. Like, it doesn't make sense that the neighbor's like, I'm going to kill you because you put up a new addition on your house. Like, fuck off with that. Like, nobody's going to do that.
It's supposed to stand for everything. Because once you get to the point where the black guy is chased into the house and the white people are chasing him, we've got a class struggle. We've got a race struggle. Right. It's white privilege. Everything is covered in this one sort of giant act.
Right. And I think that's sort of the point of the whole thing. You know what I mean? Like, the whole movie is supposed to be a way where we can have scenes of different classes clashing because of this craziness. It kind of just, I guess, accentuates it so it's all at the
forefront. Scott, they throw it away. Because what happens is, in the first movie, rich white people, I guess, it's presumed, are going out after poor minorities and poor people, okay? And they're killing them themselves to get this release.
Right.
In the second one, that's not what's happening. In the second one, they are hiring other poor people to bring them poor people so they can, in a contrived game-like fashion, kill.
Right.
By the third one, it has evolved further to the point where it is now the government who is directly going out and killing people.
Right.
Okay?
Well, it's funny because like
the government is going specifically after the senator, and now they have made it into a religion where it's no longer a game like the second one. It's now part of this sort of religious experience that the rich people and the government are intertwined with, and the haves versus the have-nots.
What's the thing is, like, at this point you've hit every note you can possibly hit with the Purge of, like, and how would that affect politics, and how would that affect, you know?
They're basically saying that white privilege has gotten to a point so much that in the future the privilege will be that they can just kill black people
Whoever they want.
That's taking white privilege to an absurdist point where, you know, I mean,
only for one day though, you know. So I noticed that the in-house logic, the logic of how the house makes sense, doesn't make any sense.
Oh, you mean how the house is laid out?
Sort of, but also in the way that, like, so many people just disappear for, like, large portions of the movie and then reappear out of nowhere. Where it's like, how many fucking rooms do you have in this? I know you're rich and you have this big house.
You have a limited cast, and for the effect of them jumping back out into a scene, you have to have them disappear for some reason.
Yeah.
So the kids sort of
kid's got that little hidey hole, you know.
Yeah, he's got the hide. The little girl disappears because she's upset at the father for some reason, when the boyfriend is gunned down after he attacks her. So, and she just disappears. So it's like,
and doesn't come back and be like, "I'm alive. You didn't kill me.
Right.
Sorry, my boyfriend tried to murder you."
I wrote exactly those words, Scott. I wrote, "Kids keep disappearing. No one wants to stay together, so it's together. It's so they can suddenly pop back up again." That's exactly what it is. Because in a thriller, you need that, but you're in a enclosed house.
It's like so aggravating. The whole movie, we're like, "Well, what about where did those people go? There's too many people in play. There's too many things going on." And then, like, even the end of the movie is like, "We've added another group. Remember the neighbors from earlier?" Like,
I think it was funny when Ethan Hawke was trying to convince his wife to torture the black guy who had already been.
Oh my God! Yeah. Put your finger in there. Yeah.
Then 5 seconds later, he's regretting the entire situation, and he refuses.
I'm glad you said that, because I had that written down as well. I said people's opinions changing every 3 seconds, where they're like, "This isn't right. This is right. No, it's not right, but maybe it's right." Like
these aren't twists; they're just not well-defined characters.
Right?
Don't pretend
they're flip-floppers.
Exactly. The movie tries to make it seem like, it's the twist. We thought the character's one thing, no.
Yeah.
You just made a bad character.
Right.
And it's transparent.
Right.
I also wrote down the fight in the billiard room is a cool fight. The main fight that takes place in the pool room.
With Ethan Hawke when he's like dispatching all those guys. Yeah, cool, that was cool. Finally, you got to a cool part in the movie.
Yeah, I agree. Cool action part. That's what makes it the best.
You promised us mayhem, and we've seen none of it. We've seen the guys politely outside. They're like, "We're gonna have to come in."
Acting 101. Yeah. We're evil, so we're gonna show it by being extra
Our equipment is on the way.
Oh, and we're not even gonna bother with facial expression on the other actors. Just put them in masks.
Just throw masks on them because they are so bland.
And we're so upset by the black guy killing our friend that I'm going to just murder another friend right in front of you so casually. The first
That's how crazy I am.
The first one bothered me so much, I'm going to torture you through the whole movie. The other one I just killed for no reason.
No reason whatsoever.
Just to show off. He was my second best friend. The other guy was my first best friend.
Yeah.
And that's why I'm at your house, wasting the whole night, my whole favorite night of the year, tormenting you. Bringing a truck, bringing a wench. I could be killing 80 people. I'm going to mess with you.
You're going to, for that one guy, like...
Come on.
Nonsense.
Weapons of Class 4 and lower have been authorized for use during the Purge.
2. It's the next year, actually.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, again, they mentioned population control. This is an illogical way to control the population.
No.
If the government wants to control the population, just murdering people one day out of the year.
How about you start a war and then do the draft? I mean,
there's about 100 million other ways the government could control the population to just
if you're really that desperate.
Just indiscriminately kill the citizens it thinks are too poor to live in the country.
Yeah.
Are we forgetting, and this is something that can be said about all 3 movies, that there are ramifications, like there's a next day after the Purge.
Right.
When you try and murder your neighbor and you're unsuccessful, then they hold a grudge the next day. Everything isn't just forgotten in life.
Right. See you next year. Like.
Yeah, well, right. See you next year. The whole neighborhood just tried to kill us.
Right. Well, that's what I think is funny at the end of the first one when, like, she lets them go. You're like, because you'll have to live with the thing that you tried to kill me, and now you can't do it until next year, basically. Right. I'm like, yeah, until next year. You're still going to be living here next year, I imagine.
Until that day next year, and then we're back to being enemies?
Move out. Get out of that town. I did like the second one. They started off with, we finally get a little bit of info on the founding fathers, which you get none of in the first movie. It's this, like, kind of it's almost like a Deus Ex Machina of like, yeah, there's this thing and they made this thing happen and that's all you need to know for the movie. But I liked getting a little bit more of like, oh, we actually saw a guy on TV.
But they change it immediately though, because now.
But then not even really. We don't get that much.
You got like other poor people dressed in masks hunting people, and you're like, well, what is this? This isn't the rich hunting the rich. Only later in the movie do you get that whole revelation that they were doing it at the behest of the rich people. The rich people were sort of hiring them to bring in specimens for their game.
Right.
So the rich are so lazy now they're not even doing the hunting on their own. They're hiring someone to bring someone in that they can hunt in a canned hunt.
Right.
Which to me is just
and the government is also collecting people too.
Right. But there's no real distinction so much. They blur the distinction between rich people and the government. By the third movie, that's like the same thing.
Right.
And it becomes like a cult. It goes from like a game and some joyous way of keeping everyone in check to almost a quasi ecstasy ridden religious cult.
Yeah.
Really.
I had a note about that of like that goes a little too far.
And when they use that whole when they bring them in, when those masked people bring them in, to the poor people's game. It's so The Running Man, for God's sake. It's a game board. They send people in with guns to shoot them. It feels like a real ripoff to me.
Yeah.
You cold-blooded bastard. I'll tell you what I think of it. I live to see you eat that contract. But I hope you leave enough room for my fist, because I'm going to ram it into your stomach and break your goddamn spine! Ah!
The movie is just made poorly like the first one. It's dark, needlessly dark. It's loud, needlessly loud. When that guy, he flirts with the two girls when they come in right before the Purge, then tries to attack the two of them.
Yeah.
As soon as the Purge begins,
right.
Predictably.
Yes.
Who else is going to attack them but that guy that
of course
wanted them 5 seconds?
Who also that guy plays a gang member in every other movie he's in. He's in
he's
Bruce Almighty. He's the guy who gets the monkey up the butt or whatever.
That's not the same guy.
It's the same guy.
Is that really the
same
guy?
Who's the landlord in this movie?
That's not monkey up the butt. That's
or the monkey comes out of his butt.
Hey, did that monkey just come out your crack, man?
I actually like the rich white people in this movie, the bad guys, so much better than the first movie, because I'm like, they're just cartoons now. It's hilarious. Oh yes, and who would like this?
It's such a ripoff of The Running Man, of The Hunger Games at this point, with this this overly articulated white people talk. And Scott, this directly connects to something we've discussed when we were talking about Taken. It presumes this crazy world of rich people doing horrific things, but in a nice way. They're dressed up in tuxedos, but they're auctioning off people as slaves
to be murdered,
to kill and to rape. It's just like Hostel. It's just like Taken. I don't think these places exist.
Yeah, no. That concept is totally played out. I feel like they dressed Michael K. Williams from Omar from The Wire.
Yeah,
I feel like he's just dressed as Spike Lee when he shows up at the end. He just looks like, I'm like, was this you were going with Spike Lee here?
I've said it once and I'll say it again.
Wearing the beret.
Total ripoff of The Running Man when Dweezil Zappa and the guy from what band is it roll in and liberate the TV station. What's it? He's from Mick Fleetwood. Mick Fleetwood has the cameo in it. He's with Dweezil Zappa. They're revolutionaries. They roll in wearing berets.
Yeah.
They liberate the Running Man set. Come on.
Yeah.
Blessed be our new founding fathers and America, a nation reborn. May God be with you all.
Purge election year.
Now it's 20 years into the future, right?
Right.
And it's not worked. Apparently, everything they've said
I can't believe it worked for 20 years.
Yeah, well, in the first two movies, they talk about how great a success it is.
Yeah.
By the time they get to the third movie, it's not working. It's not culling the population. Not enough people are purging.
Yeah. Well, you'll notice, actually, and I did want to mention this quickly about the first and second movie. At the beginning, they tell you what the unemployment rate is. And in the first one, it's 1%. In the second movie, it's 5%.
Uh-oh.
And I was like, oh, so very clearly, this isn't working. This is just not working at all. It's a stupid idea. How did we get to this point?
That's not so far from the real unemployment rate.
Right. Yeah.
By the time we get to the third movie, the government's using the Purge basically as a means to commit genocide just against, poor people.
Yeah.
Minorities.
But it keeps those numbers down and looks good, I guess, with less people. You're like, but wouldn't those numbers...
So it's not even really about... It's not even really about, these these rich people needing to get this aggression out. It's the government needing to do this for the sake of the country directly.
Right. For population
But it's
purposes.
so ham-handed. They begin the movie where like that whole like cold opening, like it's spring cleaning, and the guy announces it, and we're going after the senator. Just give me a break.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
So half-assed.
I do like now that they show that some services are now available. Like they're, obviously that they're not real ambulance, but they're people electing to go around in an ambulance.
Okay.
They also had the guy going around with his body disposal, picking up bodies.
Yeah, it gives them something to do, I guess, I suppose.
And I was like, those little touches I like about like this kind of thing. We're like, all right, now you're actually trying to explain it a little bit.
Yeah.
But like, of course, this kind of stuff would happen, and people would, once you had settled in and realized this ain't going away. It's been 20 years.
I never really settled in, Scott. The whole movie I just felt unenthusiastic. The whole thing, I didn't want to get behind it. It wasn't bringing me in. I just didn't. I distinctly knew I was watching somebody else's idea that wasn't really working.
I was really worried at the beginning, except for I do like that quick scene where her family gets kidnapped and they show her as a young girl.
That's scary.
Yeah, where he's got I've got this playlist and I'm going to play you a song.
More scary.
You're like, oh, okay, that's a little something.
More acting. I'm acting because I'm crazy. And
I'm wacky.
It's so much fun to act crazy and so easy too.
I think that's why clowns are so scary. Because they can go from like you have to literally do the same voice and you could be funny or scary.
But it's a contrast because it's the smile that's hiding the real evil face.
Right.
That's the the evil face with beneath.
Yeah.
The Gacy beneath.
Right.
Right.
So I was I thought we were getting into trouble here, and then when they brought Frank Grillo back, I was like, oh, thank God,
Listen,
Frank Grillo's here.
I knew there was no problem at all when Michael T. Williamson was brought in, another big name. He's got his own little supermarket. Did I realize that he was going to be dead one instant after he was introduced? Of course. Of course he would have to be dead by the end of the movie.
Right.
Of course.
Right.
But real quick, did you happen to catch that extremely strange shot where they're showing things that are going on during the Purge, and down an alley, a full guillotine has been set up?
What was that about? Yeah. That? And then there's the scene with like the pit and the pendulum, which is running by in that whole fucking...
So weird.
Yeah.
You know what?
People got really crazy.
This is a podcast, and so obviously you can't get a visual, but it's so strange. We also, of course, put the podcast out on YouTube, and I suggest anyone check us out on YouTube. Same name, Trilogy Podcast on YouTube. But I'm going to put that as one of our pictures. When we put up the podcast, I'll put a couple of random pictures on of some of the different things from our film.
Yeah.
I'm going to put that up as one. It is outrageous that for the sake of the Purge, a full-blown guillotine has been somehow constructed.
This guy's been building that shit all year,
in a back alley? What?
I just want to see someone get guillotined.
It's
for science. I'm doing it for science.
So terrible. It's so terrible.
What made you apply for this position?
I like your politics.
No, I want a real answer.
The senator really be questioning his tactics in saving her life? And further, while she's on the run for her very life, she's still talking about the election and she's not going to do this and do that, going to stop the Purge if she's elected. There's a knife 1 inch from you. What? Run away first. Don't tell me about your platform.
Right.
Like one thing first. Like first things first, Yeah. Do I even have anything else worth mentioning? Yeah, a couple minor things just to wrap it up, Scotty.
Yeah.
Joe being killed, totally predictable at the end. Michael T. Williamson.
Yeah.
And if you look carefully, it's the exact same shot as Bubba's death in Forrest Gump.
Really?
When Bubba says, I want to go home, Forrest. That mouth up, kind of facing up, looking up with the eyes, it's the same shot. So Bubba dies. This actor dies in Vietnam as Bubba.
Yeah.
And dies because of the Purge. Neither thing is a good enough reason to die on camera.
I mean, they're good film deaths,
Nom. But,
no, that's kind of just randomly happens. Like, he's dead.
As far as Gump and Nom, it's not Platoon Nom.
Yeah.
It's not Full Metal Jacket Nom. It's Forrest Gump Nom.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't keep paying you. You're dead.
And so, that's what I got here. I just wrote, once again, so dull.
Yeah.
Movies suck.
Yeah.
I really hate them. It would be lazy for you and I to send Phil out and put him in a position where he's going to be purged.
Well, it'd be difficult.
So we're releasing this on Halloween.
Yeah.
So instead, we came up with a great Halloween idea for Phil.
Yes.
Who am I kidding? We're definitely going to put him in a very dangerous situation.
Yes.
He loves Halloween. You know that. It's like
Yes.
his favorite time of the year. He dressed up as like a little werewolf man for Halloween every year.
Yes.
And he takes it very seriously. So I thought that we would send him to a fun haunted house as like a goodwill gesture on his favorite day of the year.
That's something he'd like.
So I sent him to a local haunted house, and I had him dress up in his costume, part of the fun. But actually, it's not a local haunted house.
Oh.
It's just an abandoned house. Just an abandoned house that I found on the bad side of town. So I sent Phil there.
Hi, folks. This is Philip Casale, your West Coast correspondent for the Trilogy Podcast. I had previously agreed to something spooky for you. What am I feel like every fucking assignment you send me at, I get just horribly, horribly maimed. And now you think to put a salve over my suffering, you'll just assign me to dress up as my werewolf character, as you so lovingly called him. His name is Warren, by the way, and he doesn't just come out at the whims of madmen that send me to my doom week in and week out. Yeah, I'm not going to dress up as him. Warren is staying in for Halloween, and instead, I am going to sit back in my bathtub and watch The Bride of Frankenstein on this here laptop. See? Who's making out like a bandit? That's me. And, hey, what's a cat doing here? All right, hey, Kitty, get out of here. Kitty. Hey, Kitty, stop tapping that laptop. Hey, hey! Ah!
Happy Halloween, Phil. Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. Phil. More a trick than a treat, I would say.
But that's Halloween, isn't it?
You never know what you're going to get.
Never know what you're going to get over on the West Coast.
Yeah.
All right. For me, if I had to rank them in order, I'd go with the gradually descending 1, 2, 3 for me. Again, I like the first one the best only because I like the originality of even trying this sort of new premise, this rule, this idea.
Yeah.
Like that fight scene. I don't necessarily hate the Lannister girl.
Yeah. Lena.
Nor do I necessarily detest the idea that the son would want to save the guy, and that kind of starts a lot of the action. I don't hate those ideas. But ultimately, these are 3 poor movies that just kind of get gradually stupider and more irritating as they go.
Yeah.
It's a failed trilogy.
I agree. It is a failed trilogy. If I have to give an order, which I don't even really... they're all kind of crappy. But I really don't like the first one. I thought it gained a little something from showing us the whole world. Once they got some money and could do that kind of thing, I think that kind of helped it out. I think centering it on one house was a bad idea because it's such a big idea. It's such a big change. You want to see how the rest of the world is affected by it. So
especially if you're not going to put huge stars in the house, you're going to populate it with Ethan Hawke. It's like...
So I guess I would say 2, 3, 1.
Wow, really? 2, 3, 1?
Yeah. I really don't like the first one. I think it's a bad idea.
And I don't like Ethan Hawke, but I thought
it made it a little bit better.
I don't like Ethan Hawke, but I don't dislike him that much.
Yeah, I don't care.
It's like we're seeing this premise through the eyes of who? Ethan Hawke. Oh, God. All right. Well, folks, we hope here at the Trilogy Podcast that you have a wonderful Halloween. Feel free to get back to us with any feedback at all. Our email address is
feedback@trilogypodcast.com.
I haven't really checked it yet, but I have a feeling that when I eventually check it, there will be 5 to 6 important emails from you people.
It's going to be overflowing.
Fill up the box. Give us your opinions. We will mention it on the next podcast, and you have a fantastic Halloween. Scott,
give us your Halloween movie recommendations too.
Why the hell not?
Tweet them at us. Put them on our Facebook.
And
email us.
Maybe you should make a scary Halloween sound to take us out today, Scott.
A scary Halloween sound?
Make a Halloween sound.
Well, you always got to go with a nice maniacal laugh.
That's your Halloween sound?
Yeah, don't you think?
Maybe a hooting owl.
That's a Halloween sound?
Well, let's hear your maniacal laugh. Here's my hooting owl. Ooh. Ooh.
You're right. Yours is so much scarier than mine.
Ooh. Hoot. Is the owl actually saying the word hoot?
Hoot.
All right. Have a good day, guys.
Put my hands